All I wanted to be was a soldier. You know, wear the uniform, serve my country. Found out the only kind of soldier Castillo wants is a blind fascist addicted to his every word.
The fictional island of Yara is as beautiful as it is predictable. There are sunny beaches, friendly locals serving street food you're somehow not allowed to buy, and sharks in the water that want to take a bite out of you. The music you hear blasting from homes and cars is upbeat, and there's a constant bit of a party vibe in the air, and there are wild horses you can actually ride. But that's where Yara's uniqueness ends, and an easy sense of parody begins for me. While Ubisoft is determined to make Giancarlo Esposito's despot Anton Castillo feel like a real incredible threat, he's more of a satirical mashup of Franco and Castro. He's definitely a bad guy, with a vision for his country that he holds above all, even family, as he often reminds his son and protege Diego, but there's a two-dimensional vibe I just can't shake, but we'll come back to him later. Far Cry 6 is a quintessential Far Cry game. You begin as an underdog who quickly ends up with the moniker of hero, fleeing some tyrannical bastard who's wrecking the lives of locals to make his dream a reality. In this case, he's made a smokable cancel cure, Bibiro. Bibiro is farmed and produced by slaves from Yara. Castillo labels them as outcasts and fake Yarans, setting the us and them tone in the game's opening sequence. Much like its predecessors, you can grapple your way up cliffs and buildings, truly revolutionary stuff, I know, use your phone to track enemies and their weaknesses, and, for the first time, simply holster your weapon so you don't look super sus running around with a sniper rifle. Ubisoft has borrowed the cloak mechanic from Assassin's Creed in the sense that as long as you and your holstered weapon don't stand too close to guards or act in a suspicious way, you can pass through checkpoints with no violence. It also works as a stealth mechanic, where you can saunter up to a vehicle, quickly whip your pistol out and assassinate the driver before stealing a prison truck. You'll also want to destroy anti-aircraft guns when you find them, otherwise you won't be able to fly around Yara, or progress the story in some sections. There's still the usual animal hunting missions too, and new cryptogramma chests that lead to unique gear. Much like Far Cry 5, you can choose whether you want to play as a female or male Dani Roja, though you can't customise her appearance. Not unless you get the same bug I did after using the photo mode, where Dani was stuck with an unfortunate wink cheeky tongue out combo and cutscenes for an hour or so.
So who's in charge?
Dani is an orphan who was previously conscripted into Yara's military, so is familiar with the people fighting for El Presidente and country, and not all of them are bad guys. She begins as many underdogs do, unaware of what she truly believes in. As she comes to understand the plight of the people and Diego's suffering at the hands of his father, we see her alliances shift and her core beliefs strengthen. Family, whether through blood or friendship, is a core theme in Far Cry 6, and one Dani struggles to reconcile given her history. In the first few hours of Far Cry 6, you'll hear the word guerrilla more times than you'll ever be able to count. Juan Carlos, a veteran guerrilla, will school you on his guerrilla rules on how to be a guerrilla and succeed in guerrilla warfare. It's repetitive, yes, and typical of how the game treats its revolutionaries as caricatures, though it does give you one major game changer, the Supremo. The Supremo is an ugly backbling that brings far too much power to a fight. You can combo it with a weapon to inflict terrible damage on your opponents as you see fit. You'll begin with a flamethrower and rocket launcher combo that's just as stupid and OP as it sounds. My advice, pair it with the flame retardant gloves. Much like in Far Cry 5, the entire environment can catch fire and I spent way too long dying in the blaze. Later on, you'll unlock another Supremo that unleashes an EMP attack that can take out security systems and vehicles. When you're being pursued by cars, trucks and helicopters, you can see why this would come in handy. There are other silly yet effective weapons available in-game too, like the CD launcher that questionably blasts the Macarena. Overall, the combat is as good as it's ever been. You can sneak your way around and take out enemies with melee kills or headshots, or go in all guns and Supremos blazing. You can modify weapons at workbenches, adding better sights, suppressors and ammo types into the mix, as well as change their appearance and add little charms. There's also the Season Pass's Blood Dragon gear, which is hilariously out of place in Yara, complete with a Cobra Con sniper rifle, which is just as fucking badass by the way, and your friendly metal amigo K9000. Speaking of amigos, there are no humans who you can recruit or hire as companions in Far Cry 6, but you will meet a healthy bunch of animal compadres. There's a lovable chorizo, a little dash hound in a wheelchair who'll distract enemies, allowing you to sneak past. And yes, all of my guns have a little chorizo bone charm on them, thanks for asking. There's also Chicharron, the fiery rooster, and Guapo, the crocodile, who'll both fuck up your enemies as opposed to just letting you know there might be a gun nearby. Amigos certainly are effective in the field and add a welcome bit of comic relief to fights. It really is something to be headshotting enemies and then turning around to see a tiny dog biting a guy in the face. As I said earlier, you can also find and ride wild horses now, and are able to pet and feed all manner of wildlife around Yara. As of yet, I've just found one cat, so if anyone finds more, point me to them. If riding horses isn't your jam, you can fly helicopters, drive a range of land and sea vehicles, and even fly a plane. I crashed my plane within seconds, and I'm obviously not destined to become a pilot, but it's still fun to tour Yara from above and imagine you're going on a nice Caribbean holiday after 2 years of living through hell. Whether I'm just shit at games or the controls are a bit janky is up for debate. The vehicles are pretty terrible to drive. They don't turn left or right enough when steering, and it feels like your viewpoint isn't centred enough, as if your head was poking out the window. Every vehicle on a horse felt way too fast, even with the sensitivity turned down. Playing on a 2070 Super, I experienced a few crashes and bugs too, such as the weird face bug and a few floating NPCs. For whatever reason, the whites of eyes around each character's iris wouldn't stay a solid colour either, so unless everyone was on drugs, something was amiss here. There were also a few weird sections and camps that have you playing in third person, like in Mass Effect where you can't jump, instead you're just stumbling around with this giant deadly backpack thing, tripping over dogs, roosters and junk. Speaking of the camps, there are new Los Bandidos missions where you can send a Yaran leader to complete separate missions, sort of like how Dragon Age Inquisition's war table missions work. You can assign a leader to a mission, and then after a set amount of time, you'll be able to choose what method they use to complete it, depending on their perks. It wasn't very clear how it or the co-op mode will contribute to the story, bar collecting more resources and pesos, but it's a nice distraction nonetheless. It wouldn't be a Far Cry game without a few twists though, but I'll leave this review spoiler free. Betrayal is at the heart of Far Cry 6, from Castillo's deception to the world about how Bibiro was grown and manufactured, to the grievances within the guerrillas and Danny's own relationship with the regime. A lot of the betrayal was predictable. This isn't my first Far Cry rodeo after all, but there are enough surprises to keep you happy. It's difficult to separate Esposito's Gus Fring from Castillo. Both are very charming, two-faced, and ultimately grade A bastards, which depending on whether you enjoy Breaking Bad or not, will make his character more or less appealing. There's less pomp and exaggeration with this villain compared to Far Cry 5's Joseph Seed. Castillo is just as committed to his cause, that's for sure, but he's much more traditional and realistic due to his seat of power. He shines an uneasy light on potential goings on in the world, the politics that Ubisoft seems keen to distance itself from acknowledging, highlighting all the good things we might be receiving with the results of modern day slavery and corruption. There's little to laugh at with Far Cry 6's story, instead leaving a sour taste as you wonder about reality and state of the world. And for that, I definitely recommend you play it. Well, but there's like a million wee dogs you can pat.